Hello, everybody. This is episode 19 of the Information Paradise podcast. And here we have Tarun and Pradhaan.
It is always a pleasure to have conversations here.
In this episode, we're going to talk about thought and emotion. When I try and think of a thought, I'm using a thought to think about what a thought is. So what is a thought?
Very simple. Thought is an experience. And specifically, it is an experience of the mind. So it is an activity of the mind.
What types of thoughts are there?
There are as many types of thoughts as there are types of experiences. So we are having 5 kinds of experiences right now. The vision, the hearing, the taste, smell, and touch. So the thoughts, they come in all these 5 formats.
There seems to be, in at least my culture, or every culture really, there seems to be really massive problems or suffering that is at the cause, has something to do with thought. So what could you say that could help with that?
Just to know that suffering is mostly thoughts, and the thoughts are not mine, detached from the thoughts. The pain cannot be avoided because it is produced by the body. But you can detach from the thoughts that are accompanying the situation. And it is not really good to avoid the suffering. It is good to see the suffering, why it is happening, what is the reason of the suffering, and take some action to mend the situation which is causing suffering. That is the proper way. When you see suffering as something which needs to be avoided, then you are running away from the life. Suffering is just like a signal that something is wrong. So the body produces a pain when there is something wrong in the body. If we cut down this ability of the body to produce pain, then you will never know if anything is wrong. Probably you have placed your arm on a gas stove. It is burning, it is catching fire, but you cannot recognize it, you cannot sense it, there is no pain, and quickly that organism is going to die. So the suffering, mental suffering, is also an indicator. It is a signal that something is wrong in the mind. So do not avoid it, face it, check what is causing that signal, and fix it. That is all. The signal itself is illusion. The signal itself is just a change that we are witnessing. There is nothing wrong there. It is an illusory signal. But not to take an action on it, well, probably that will cause some kind of consequence.
It seems that there is not much action being taken, and so the society which is suffering is living in the consequences of not taking action.
Yes, it is like, let us say you are hammering a nail and the hammer hits your hand. This is a mistake. Now this is going to cause suffering. Now what is the proper action to move out of that area of the hammer? You see, take care while hammering and do your job quickly and carefully. That is the solution. What is mental suffering? It is hammering your hand again and again, but doing nothing to the situation. Like, for example, somebody insulted you. Now you keep recalling it, and the anger keeps, arising in your mind. And the anger is now affecting the body also, and it's producing all kinds of diseases and whatever, and the mental issues. But you're not doing anything to fix it. That means it is equal to, it is similar to hammering your hand again and again and again every day, not doing anything to fix it. So the suffering in the mind, it can be fixed, but most of the people, they would prefer to repeat it instead of fixing it.
Why is that? Why?
Ignorance.
Oh,
Ignorance.
yes. Because it's not their fault. They know not what they do, and I know not what I do when I suffer.
The problem is, it is very easy to show someone that, look, the hammer that is hammering your hand instead of nail is not you. The hammer is not you. But it is kind of very difficult to show people that the mental signals that are coming from the mind are not you. The impulses that are coming in the mind, the memories, they are not you. So it is difficult to show the people, and people have identified themselves with these activities of the mind, and that adds to the suffering. They will say, oh, it is what? It is me who is suffering. But no, I'm just witnessing this activity. The suffering is a mechanical action that is happening in the mind. So once you know this thing, it becomes possible to stop it. It becomes possible to stop the hammer. If you think the hammer is me, then the hammer is going to hammer you. The hammer will not stop if you think it is me.
But when they are hammering themselves, they are doing it to themselves.
The suffering is self-caused.
But that would make it untrue that they are not the suffering, would it?
They are not really suffering, but there is an illusion that these thoughts are causing harm to me, and I need to react to do something, and I cannot react, and I'm trapped. And this kind of illusory story is going on in the mind. That is all there is.
Okay, the next time I'm suffering, I will say to myself, I'm doing it to myself. What do you think about that?
If you say that you are doing it to yourself, then you can stop it also. But that is not the case. I'm not doing it. The thing is, I'm observing it. The mind is doing it. Once you know this, then it becomes possible to stop it. If you say, I am doing it, then even though the mind is doing it, even though you are identified with it, nothing can be done about it.
Yes, and this is a frustrating and confusing situation. Yes.
This is because of the ignorance. Even though we can say that the suffering is self-caused, but it is only a metaphorical way of saying that it is happening inside us. There is something that can be done to stop it. That is what it means.
So what is the knowledge that we need?
It is very easy. It takes 2 minutes. You need to simply see that the activity of the mind is not me. That is all. Bring in the awareness that we are the awareness, we are pure consciousness. Bring in this knowledge that I'm only witnessing whatever is happening in the mind. And once this is seen, the suffering goes away.
Okay, so now the viewers of Information Paradise, let's treat them with a little exercise, shall we?
Let us take this previous example that somebody insulted you. Now, every day that thought is going to come up, and it is not my wish that the thought will come up. These thoughts, they are not going to take your permission before arriving, because it is a mental activity. It is very, very mechanical. It is similar to when you get cut on your body somewhere. The pain does not take permission to inform you that there is a cut there. The pain happens very mechanically. So because there is a wound in the mind, something went wrong, and the mind is sensing a threat to the survival. So it mechanically generates those thoughts. Now, if there is no awareness there, then what will happen? The thought arrives, the thought produces a reaction in the mind. It is all in the mind, actually. And the mind produces a lot of emotions and a lot of other thoughts. That is, they appear in the body also. And you get distracted, the mind, the intelligence stops running, the intellect is killed by these thoughts, because survival is important for the mind. So it keeps cooking stories, it keeps planning, it keeps reacting inside itself. And because there is an identification with whatever is going on in the mind, this is very normal thing for the mind to do. But because there is an identification, it is taken as suffering. In the memory, this event is written as suffering. And the mind itself does not like it. The mind itself says that I don't want this. There is a resistance to this event also. And that is why it registers in the memory as a painful event. We do not like it when it happens. Even though the mind itself is generating it, the mind itself does not like it. So this is what is happening normally, and it will continue to happen. The hammer continues to blow on your mind. It's not going to stop. So what we do, we intervene with full awareness when we set up a distance between this activity of the mind and the witnessing of this activity. When these two things are separated, the witnessing is separated from the activity, now we see it as not me. And whenever this activity starts, we can simply detach from it and we can allow it for a while without reacting. Whenever the mind starts cooking up a story, simply bring in the awareness, see it. The act of seeing itself is going to stop the mind. The mind cannot stop the mind. Witnessing stops the mind. So this is a small exercise that anybody can do. You can do it right now also if you want. Bring in a memory which was hurtful for you, which was something harmful that happened to you, and see what happens in the mind. It can be an insult, it can be an attack, it can be something which you lost, somebody died, or you suffered a financial loss, or a failure of any kind, you could not achieve anything which hurts the mind. You bring in that memory. Actually, if it is fresh, the mind will bring it by itself. But right now, you can bring it voluntarily. And tell me, what is the reaction that is caused?
So when I was about 8 years old, I had two best friends, and I had never watched Star Wars. And we would play acting roles, we would act together, whatever we call it. And I was made Princess Leia, whatever her name is, Leia. And I didn't like it pissed me off. And it's still there. So that's it there. There we go.
So what is the reaction of this memory? What reactions does it produce?
Suffering. Pain.
No, you will need to explain the actual reaction. Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Is there a resistance? Or is there acceptance?
Yeah, it is unpleasant, and there is only a willingness to go into it due to the knowledge of the benefit of doing so through experience. But really, resistance.
There must be a resistance that I don't want this. I don't want this.
Yeah.
This kind of resistance will be there. And that resistance is seen in the body. Like your teeth may start, crushing, and
Yes.
your fist may start clenching, and
all
kinds of hormones and chemicals are released in the blood.
Yes.
You can feel it actually. The body will start trembling, and your eyes will start darting. So because your trauma is kind of very small,
hang on a
people who have suffered a lot, like somebody murdered their parents, or it can be a case of abuse of some kind, or that means that is going to produce a very strong reaction. So that reaction is taken as myself. And that is why it repeats. And because there is really no event that is happening in the world, nothing can be done, because it is mind-created event. It is not happening in the world. You cannot run away, and you cannot even fight. The usual activity of the ego cannot be done. So we feel trapped. We feel as if somebody is holding our hand and hammering it, and giving you blow by blow of the hammers. So it is like an animal that is trapped in a cage, cannot do much. This is the situation when you identify with these things that are happening. Now, as soon as now you can do the awareness thing, bring up the memory again, and this time do not entertain it as my memory, myself. See it as an event in the mind. Mind is something which is happening apart from you. You are experiencing it, so you cannot be it. So it is an event that is happening. And don't worry that it is not happening in the world. It is not happening in somebody else's mind. So don't worry about these things. The event is mental, but it is an event. So it is not you. It is something which you are experiencing. So bring in this awareness and then see what happens. Let the memory come and let it go with full awareness of it. Oh yes, this happened. Oh yes, that happened. And then do not react with it. And the mind will throw a resistance, but watch that also. Watch the resistance also. Oh yes, the mind is throwing resistance. And the mind will feel trapped because cannot do much. And then observe that also. Oh yes, there is no way to fix it now. It is just a memory. It is not happening in real. So this kind of awareness you can bring in and replace your suffering thoughts with the thoughts of awareness. Like replace your old description, old story with a story that is full of awareness. Like, yes, this memory is coming. Yes, this is producing reactions. Yes, nothing can be done about it. Yes, it is not real. It is not happening. It is just a memory recall. Replace your usual story with these observations, which is your direct experience now. And then replace the false with the truth. What is the false? The story that is being created in the mind. What is true? That it is only a mechanism in the mind. You're watching it. Now see what happens. Now see what happens to the suffering.
So I have to bring the memory, I have to like create the memory. So it's not even there.
And the memory will appear by itself, usually. If it is suffering, it is not, you don't need to do any effort to bring in the suffering. The suffering comes automatically. You will need an effort to bring in the awareness. Because initially, we are habitual of getting carried away with the suffering and the story of the mind. So you need to remember to bring in the awareness. The suffering comes by itself.
I've set up a routine in my weekly plan, which is an hour of meditation in 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. So this is my time to explore the mind. What shall I do in those hours?
It is okay that you have a specific time, but when you are suffering, then you do not really care about the meditation or anything.
No, yes.
At that time, you will need to remember that somebody said something like this, you see. You will need to remember that this conversation that happened about the suffering. And that memory will now replace the old memories. And then the story of the mind will be replaced by story of the awareness. And you will need to do it every time the mind throws this story at you. So suffering is a mechanical action. You can counter it by programming another mechanical action there, which is remembering not to entertain the thought, not to serve the thought, not to give it energy or attention. Give the attention to the awareness of it.
Wow. Yes. And this.
Now, the important point is that if this is something old, if it is in the memory and people have died now, those people are not there and nothing can be done. So that is okay. This awareness is going to erase the suffering. But what if you are suffering every day? Like your boss is abusive, or you have bad parents, or you have somebody toxic in your family. That is renewing the suffering every day. Then you will need to take an action. Then simply forgiving is not going to work, because you forgive today, that the suffering is renewed tomorrow. So their action must be taken, and the action should be corrective action, like move away from the source of suffering. Do not get attached to that person or that event or object or whatever, because suffering can be caused by the object. For example, you are a chain smoker, you are a smoking addict, and you don't get the cigarette for, let us say, 5 minutes. Yes. Now it causes a lot of suffering, isn't it? Because the mind is addicted to the substance. So in that case, when the suffering is getting renewed every day or every hour, you will need to take a corrective action. Then it is possible to take a corrective action.
The awareness of thoughts and that whole process of changing the mechanism, so like getting our mind used to not delving into the story but becoming aware of it, right? This correlates perfectly with lucid dreaming, because we have to become aware of the thoughts when we're asleep instead of getting trapped in it.
Yes, and because the suffering can be seen as an activity of the untrained mind. And the mind is not trained to handle this kind of events. You
Yes.
are very well trained to handle things that happen in the outside world, but nobody has taught you to handle the events in the mind. This is the social ignorance. Nobody knows about these things.
Yeah.
So, uh, if you train your mind to handle these kind of events, you will be saved from them. They are not going to cause unhappiness in you. So, mental training is important. Mental training starts with knowing the mind.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing right now in meditation, and also throughout the day.
Yes, the best meditation is whenever the mind starts cooking up something, become aware of it. You can do it by sitting also, closing your eyes and looking at what is going on in the mind, and then separating yourself from that activity, like watch it from far away distance. You are the awareness, so take on the form of the awareness, the observer, and watch it. You can do it sitting also for 1 or 2 hours. But if you don't get that kind of time, then you can do it anytime, because the mind is active all the time, mostly, including in the night time. The mind is very active in the night. So there also you can adopt attitude of awareness. So these sufferings, they always, come out in dreams also. You will encounter these events in dreams also. So if you have awareness there, then you can simply uh, fix that kind of dream, stop the dream from turning into a nightmare. That also can be done. So the problem is unawareness. The problem is not the mind. The problem is not the situations. Untrained mind is the problem.
Yes. How do we train the mind?
By repeating the correct action. Just like I said, replace the suffering with awareness and understanding and knowledge, and keep repeating it. Like, how did you learn to ride a bike? You fell
Yeah.
many times, you kept repeating it. So then the memory becomes solid in your mind. It is another memory, it is another conditioning, but it is the conditioning that counters the wrong conditioning that has happened.
Yeah.
Like, we are not told to defend ourselves from the mind during our childhood. We are trained to handle the survival in the world, but we are not trained to handle the mind. So what happens is it becomes deformed by the time we are old enough. The mind is already deformed. It has already created fairy tale land for itself. It is already away from the truth. It is already suffering a lot.
Yes.
So nothing to worry. You can start mental training at any age. It does not depend on the age, except very, very old people may not be able to do it, but probably you can do it. If you have a working, healthy mind, then you can do it at any age. Training the body, well, it is more difficult than training the mind, actually.
Last night I had a dream that I lived with my family in a larger house with white interior, and we had Rupert Spira over to stay, and also he was because I've been learning. Me and Connor Pogue, my friend Connor Pogue from America, we talk about lucid dreaming a lot. We've got an episode, astral projection and stuff. And I'll put a little card here. And yeah, so I've been thinking about my dreams a lot and going in them and stuff. And yeah, second part to that was Rupert Spira also had this thing. He was behind this like desk, and I had to have some information, but I didn't have the right information, so I couldn't join his thing. And I had to come back in a week's time. I had to go all the way from Scotland to. It's a crazy dream, but anyway.
Yes, it's a good experience actually. Good dream.
Yeah, it's a good dream. Can you recall any dreams that you've had that are fun?
Nothing unusual. Actually, I've lost interest in that kind of
Okay.
exploration nowadays. I'm not doing anything like this. I prefer to sleep peacefully.
Yeah, okay. But
Because it is just a wasteful mental activity, actually.
okay. Wouldn't you like to see life from the perspective of any animal? A dragon?
No. When you know that all these things are illusions, they're illusory, then there will be a drop in the interest. Now you want to be free from these experiences and stuff, entertaining the random desires of the mind. Yes, there can be a desire to do that and do this, but nowadays I've seen that it does not last. There is no fire in that desire now.
Yeah, I
And here, like you are very young and it is a new subject for you, so obviously you will want to do many things. So when I learned this, I wanted to do many things, and it was somewhat half success, half failure. And then when I came to know the real working of the mind, that how the mind works, these desires are not mine. This is just a play in the mind. Then all the interest will be dropped. It will be seen as completely unnecessary activity.
Yeah.
There is more fun in remaining peaceful and abiding as awareness. That is more peaceful. It has more sweetness than activity.
I can see how that might be. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I can see how like dreams, and we'll go back to thought and emotion in a minute, but I can see how dreams, like just using them to fulfill desires, it's kind of pointless, isn't it, really?
That can be done if there are a lot of desires, if they are troubling you every day, then you can use the lucid dream or any other technique to fulfill the desires. But
Yeah.
ultimately, you will find that there is no end to it. Now, a little bit of pleasure out of that, but ultimately, you will find that the pleasure also becomes less and less. Now, you will need to do something bigger to fulfill the desires because the desires become big. And if you are not aware, you can fall into this trap easily. You will become addicted to fulfillment of desires. So ultimately, they lead to this kind of awakening that the desires are not mine, and I need to let go almost 99% of them. You just let them fly like birds in your mind. Do not cage them and do not call them as mine. Now that which is very, very necessary, that which is required for the survival and happiness of this organism, that will happen automatically. You do it in a minimal way. Instead of doing it in a grand way, we just get by somehow in a frugal way, because you know that if I overdo it, the desire is going to come back 10 times amplified. So you do it a little bit and then you forget about that thing. So I'm doing something like this these days. I'm doing only that which is necessary, and I let go of all the desires that are completely unnecessary, even though the mind promises that you are going to get the pleasure. And I know the truth of this promise because of many, many years of practice. You will come to know that this is a lie. The mind does not really know that there is no pleasure in fulfilling the desires. Only I know. I means this awareness knows that the desire is also a mental activity. The mind does not know this and is therefore running after these things. So you will need to overcome the mind one day. A day will come when you will say, well, it's boring now. I have obeyed my mind a lot. I have obeyed my mind for whole of my life. Now I'm going to take the chair. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to kick out the mind from the chair and I'm going to become the king now. The mind is going to become the slave, which is its proper position. Awareness is the king. I am the awareness. Mind is like an instrument. It is providing me an experience. So I can decide which experience I need to entertain. So those who are new to these activities of the mind, well, why not go ahead and experience everything that you can, know everything that you can, because without experiencing, you won't be able to know it, you won't be able to overcome it. Like simply I sit here and preach that don't do this, don't do that, and probably it's not going to be effective. You are going to think that probably I'm missing something, I'm missing the fun, or probably this is a good way to live. Running after desires is a good way to live. You will have these kinds of doubts. So my recommendation is go through it. See for yourself. You will arrive at a place of peace and equanimity and tranquility, and there is nothing happening here.
Even now.
Sorry?
Even now, I said.
Yes. Actually, the peace is always there. The activity of the mind is happening on the background of the peace. And the consciousness is like a screen, and the mental activity is like a movie, where there are perceptions of the world, there are emotions, there are thoughts and imaginations, and all these 5 kinds of categories that we saw. They are happening on this screen of peace. Now you can enjoy it for a while and then go back to the screen. Then only that which is very, very necessary, it comes up on the screen, and you do not entertain it for a long time. You say, okay, it was supposed to happen, and then you do not even react to it. You let it happen, and then that is forgotten actually. The awareness does not keep any memories. So it's just like a child. So even now, your background of awareness is peaceful. The violence is in the mind, not in awareness. I'm always peaceful. I'm always in bliss. So it does not matter what happens. It does not matter what kind of activity the mind is engaged in. I'm always peaceful. I'm always bliss. So all you need to do is, practically speaking, there are two ways. Either you let the mind continue its violence, which is okay, perfectly fine. You say nothing wrong here. But if it starts harming this body or other bodies or the environment around you, then you can fix it. Then you can amend it, intervene a little bit. And if it is not necessary, do not do it. And with time, you will find that not doing is more, gives you more pleasure than doing.
Could you give an example?
Let us say I have desire to go and buy some stuff. So half of it is necessary, it's required for the survival, and half of it is unnecessary. Now I go and without using my discrimination, I buy all of it. That which is necessary is useful, but that which was unnecessary, now I need to guard it. Now it will just lie there and I'll look at it. And now I have lost a lot of money. That means I need to work more to compensate. Now next month I don't have money to pay my bills and all. These are the consequences of doing the unnecessary thing. Now you can see that if I had not done those things, I would be more peaceful. I would be more happy. Now this clutter, the junk pile that is lying in my house, well, it is a complete waste, plus it has caused a lot of uneasiness. I cannot say it is suffering because it's not a small thing. Another example, let us say I enjoy driving very fast. You can see what is going to happen here.
Yes.
So because that is the impulse in the mind is promising you that, look, if you drive very, very fast, because nobody is on the street today, it is all locked down, it is all curfew, drive as fast as you can. And you are going to get pleasure like never before. So because I am identified with the mind, I accept this bait. And I do a very stupid thing that I drive very fast, and probably I'll hit something or get injured or I'll kill somebody or something like this. Now you can see that this doing is going to produce a lot of uneasiness. It's going to produce, it's not going to produce a peaceful life for me. But if I choose non-doing, because I can see that, okay, the mind is giving me something, an option, but I don't really need to act on it. It is completely unnecessary. I can go to the market at a normal speed, also driving carefully also. And that is necessary. Nothing else is necessary beyond that. So by not doing, I'll save a lot of trouble for myself. So sometimes people think, well, not doing is boring, it is inactivity, it is you're not living the life, but that is not true. If you want to do something creative. Like if I want to channel my energies, I'll produce 20 videos if I have that much energy, you see. And that kind of activity is going to keep the mind occupied, plus it is not boring, it is not non-activity, but it is a pleasure in itself. And the thing is, as you mature in your spiritual life, you will see that the so-called good activity also has consequences. Consequences cannot be controlled. You will know this. So you will stop doing that also. A very good example that I give in many of my talks and many of my articles, just to demonstrate that whatever you think is good is also kind of has consequences. For example, your best friend gets married and you gift him a very fast car. You gift him this key of a Ferrari, for example. And you think, I've done something very good. isn't it? This is the best gift that he has gotten. And your friend takes the Ferrari and, his wife, the new wife, and drives off a cliff
Yeah.
because he has never driven a fast car, so he cannot control it. And he is very, very excited and he wants to show his wife how fast he can drive and so on. You see, everything is perfect for a perfect accident. So he meets an accident and both get killed in that accident. Now, was it a good action or was it a bad action?
Yes, it's impossible to really define, isn't it, as good and bad.
You see, from the mind's point of view, it did something good. But since we do not have control over consequences, it is a delusion that I've done something good. The consequences determine what is good, what is bad. So what we do is we do not gift such things to people. Do not gift a gun to your child, for example.
Yeah.
So on. You see, but if your child is demanding food, well, yes, give the food to your child because that is necessary. You see, uh, so what we do, we come to know how the reality works, how the illusion works, and we want to be one step ahead of the illusion. We want to keep our peace of mind because it is most valuable thing for us now. The awareness is the most valuable thing. So we stop doing all the good things also, which are completely unnecessary, which the mind tells you is good. Okay, do it, do it. It's going to push you. Okay, it's very good. It's fine. It's the greatest thing in the world. Go and vote for this person. You see, you are a patriot. Don't be anti-national there. Do not sit at home and you do those stupid things because your mental conditioning tells you somebody else is going to tell you. You see, drink 6 liters of water every day. Somebody who likes you very much, somebody who loves you very much is going to tell you, but it is totally unnecessary. You drink only that much which your body tells you. Because of our conditioning, this stupidity that is stuffed into our mind by the society, we engage in a lot of unnecessary activity. It's a waste. It's a waste. And the consequences, we don't even know. You see, you think the consequence is not going to come. It will come one day. It will come after many, many years also. It can come after many, many lifetimes also. The consequence, the action is like a memory. It is impressed on the universal mind and then it manifests. One day it is, the same individual faces the consequences. It is reflected back. Sometimes the consequence is good. You say thank you. And sometimes the consequences are not good. Then also you say thank you because you learn from it. Non-doing, you see. Non-doing brings more pleasure. There are no consequences.
About the water, 6 liters, and you said trust yourself to know what to do, to what's good, right? But I have found that I've learned that my mind is conditioned in ways that I don't, that how can we trust our conditioning when it might be geared not towards our favor?
It is very easy. You learn from the experiences. You do not trust the mind, you trust the experience. So you do something which has produced pain, for example, or suffering, then you don't do it again. Even if your mind tells you, you do not do it again. It's very simple. First time, if it's something very new for you, then there is no way. Then you will need to experiment and find out what is good for you. It is like going and watching a movie or reading a book. You don't know what is in the movie. You don't know what is in the book. So you try it. Slowly, with experience, you come to know that this writer is totally garbage. Or that movie, that director is brilliant. So the trust comes through experience.
Yes. Okay. I have recent experiences of that, fasting and no fat and eating a good diet, which is nice, yes.
It is very simple. Do not repeat anything which takes away your peace of mind. Stop repeating it. Sometimes it becomes necessary to do it and then you do it. There's no. You are in the world, so there will be some more or the other action. You let the world throw the action at you instead of you throwing it in the world. That is, again, a good rule of thumb. You let the world initiate the action. For example, you're sitting here and you think, oh, I'm bored. I need to go and meet somebody. I need to call somebody. This is mental activity. It is completely unnecessary. It is giving you an excuse that you are bored. And if you do something, you will get the pleasure. Just watch it. You do not initiate the action. But if somebody calls you, if somebody comes to meet you, then you participate there completely.
Yeah.
Because it is now sent by the universe. It is not your doing. So you will never receive the consequence of it.
Could you repeat the last bit?
Because it is being done by the universe. See, we call it universal action. It is done by the universe. So you are not going to receive the consequence of it.
What does that mean?
It means that you are not responsible for what happened. You see, it does not matter what happens. You can always say that, well, I did not do it. It was not my mistake. I was just sitting here in my place, you see. I did not do anything. So that restores your peace. Even if something horrible happened or even if something good happened, you do not take responsibility of it because you did not initiate it. It was not your will. So that irrespective of what happens, your mind will be peaceful. It won't be able to generate these thoughts of blame or pride or whatever.
That's amazing. Will is an illusion, right? Wow.
So deeper terms, even that the things that we do which are necessary are not being done by me. It is not my will. The will is always universal. And this body-mind is an instrument to execute that will. It is not mine. So ultimately, you will see that no matter what happens, you are at peace. You are always drinking this nectar of peace, always. Actually, right now also, you are at peace. But it is very, very clouded by mental activity. There is no awareness. Even a serial killer is at peace. Even a terrorist or a politician is completely at peace. What has happened is affliction. The mind is diseased there. And so it is completely covered up by the disease. It is just intensity of the disease. That's all. We all have this kind of disease. It's called untrained mind. Because everybody has this kind of mind. So we inherit this kind of mind. Untrained mind. It's like a untrained wild animal. And so it causes a lot of problems. So whatever training we receive is it is like a leash. Whatever training and good manners that we receive from the society is forced on this mind. It does these things just to avoid trouble. You see, people do not steal from the supermarket because the camera is watching them. Otherwise, they will steal it. People do not murder other people because they are afraid, you see, somebody else is going to kill them, take a revenge, or eventually the police will get to them. Otherwise, they will kill very freely. So the training is very superficial. Whatever I see in the society is not really a trained mind. It is a disciplined mind. It is a forced mind. So the real training comes only through the knowledge of the mind, which means the person must take up a spiritual path. It is not possible to train the mind without a spiritual path, without awareness. Nothing really happens in the mind without awareness. And how do you cultivate awareness? It's very simple. You take up a spiritual path, any path. You see, all are okay, all are good. Pick the one that you like. Start your training. Free your mind from the conditioning, from the stupidity and these afflictions. Then you won't need rules. Then you won't need laws. Then you won't need manners. And then you won't need the ethics also. You will know in your heart that what is right, what is good action, what is bad action. You know it already. That is very natural wisdom is present already. It is kind of corrupted by the social conditioning. So, and nothing is possible if you are not a spiritual seeker.
This population increase since 500 years ago has been crazy. So, yeah, I mean, I was in the forest earlier on, and there's loads of people around, and yeah, I'm just like, oh, I kind of wish there wasn't really anybody around. And I went there because I wanted to create my own little pond next to this little secret part in the forest where I meditated the other day. So I want to create my own little pond. And around that area were a group of young men like me. And I was hearing them. And so basically I was like playing this role in my mind. I was seeing these thoughts that are like early hominid thoughts, not even of any language. Just like, if there was any language to it, it would be, you are this lone ape. They are the enemy, or something. I don't know who they are, obviously. Yeah, it was interesting to watch that. So, the pleasure trap. So, because I have a lot of unnecessary thinking about what I can do to just get a hit of pleasure. And that can be social, as well. So I think a lot of people can see that in themselves as well and be free from that.
Yeah, that is the key. It does not matter what is going on in the mind, necessary, unnecessary, imaginary. You keep your awareness on all the time. And a good way to do that is to keep studying the mind. Start taking interest in what is mind, what it does, how many layers are there in the mind, which layer is thinking what, which layer has got what kind of memory, what are the different activities of the mind, how they change during the 24 hours, or they change as we age. How do they change when we are in good situations, and how do they change when we are in bad situations? You keep studying it just like an astronomer keeps studying the planets, you see. always pointing his telescope at something or the other in the sky. And because he is very, very interested in what is happening in the sky. They do it for, even 50, 60 years. They keep tracking that bit of rock that is floating in the space. 50, 60 years. Can you imagine? Because intense interest, too much interest. They want to know what is that. Because astronomy takes the astronomical times. It requires astronomical amount of patience. That is why very few people are capable of doing it. Similarly, the mind is very big. It's too big. It is bigger than the world. So you will need to be very patient and watch the mind. Take a lot of interest in it. That will automatically wake up the awareness. Why are you not interested in the mind right now? Because you are in complete identification with the mind. You are saying, I am the mind. It is my life. Whatever I think are my thoughts. Whatever I desire is my desire. And I'm obliged, I'm forced to act on my desires. I do not have any control over what I desire or what I do. So this is a mess. Then this means you never studied your mind. This means that you are born in a society, in a country which discourages study of mind, which discourages meditation, which conditions your mind with a few stupid things, and you are now supposed to repeat them all your life without thinking, in a brainless way. The society is designed to make you brain dead. It is not designed to make you aware. So what we do is we get away from the society first of all, stop drinking the poison and then later start drinking the medicine that will fix the mind. The society is the poison, and the medicine is knowledge. Get into a company. You see, when I say that get away from the social life, some people are going to get very depressed. Already my social life is kind of mess. Nobody talks to me, and you're telling me to totally become lonely. No, you see, just get away from the poisonous people, ignorant people, and join the societies of enlightened people. You see, there is not a big crowd of them. They are still there. You see. In every corner of the world, there are few. So join them. Increase the crowd. Go and become, grow the crowd there. If you don't go there, then they will remain one or two per city. So you just change your society, you see. Get into the company of the wise people. Don't be lonely. And then the medicine will be delivered to you. I've seen that when I stay with stupid people, I start thinking and talking like stupid.
Wow.
All those violent thoughts and all those things, because mind takes on the impressions. Mind is like wet sand. Whatever you throw at it, it will stick to it. And when I'm in the company of wise people, intelligent people, aware people, the mind becomes like that. You see, so it's a very good trick. Change your lifestyle. You don't need to do a lot of study. You don't need to become like a pandit in the philosophy of the mind. No, it is a very big subject actually. And almost nothing is known about the mind. Even the biggest scientist in the world does not know even 0.1% about the mind. They know a lot, but it is all garbage. So start shifting your life towards a life of awakening. Start shifting towards light from darkness. And you can do it anytime, you see. You can start any day. And the earlier you start, the better will be the result.
So this is supposed to be a platform for bringing wise people not only into other people's lives, but to mine.
Yes, talking with people and listening to them, watching their videos, reading their books is as good as staying with them. That also works. That's fine. But the only thing is, do not believe anybody blindly.
Yeah.
You won't remain in their company, but it is not because you want to believe whatever they are saying. No, you want to embody their qualities. You don't want to follow their words. You see, believe only your own experience, nothing else.
Yes, I found in myself a tendency to want to believe what the wise people are saying, just as beliefs, because I see my terrible beliefs, and yeah.
Let us see. If the belief is bringing you out of misery, if it is curing your ignorance or suffering, then why not?
Yeah.
Believe it. If you travel far enough on this path, the spiritual path, there will be a day when you will know that your belief was only a belief, even though it worked for a while, even though it was like a placebo for a while. But because you are seeking the truth, one day you will come to know that, oh, this was my belief only. And because this was said by somebody whom I liked, whom I respected, then I adopted that thing, but it benefited me, no problem. Now I know the truth. I know this is not true. So I let go of the belief. Now that is a good example. Let us take a bad example, like a negative example. You believe somebody and then it causes pain. It causes suffering. It makes you more like instead of progressing, you go back, you regress, you go in a reverse gear. So there you will, if you are aware, you will come to know that probably I made a mistake. I shouldn't have believed this thing blindly. So again, your own experience is going to tell you. If you encounter suffering and you are not progressing, then just drop that belief. Just drop it. It is always good to double check with your own experience. And if you do not have the experience, then the first thing is you do not form a belief. You say, I do not know. I do not know, or whatever they said. It's not my experience right now. Simply accept the unknowing, because everything cannot be known instantly. So you wait for the experience, or you go and ask that person. You can ask that person nicely that you told me that thing, but I don't experience it. Can you tell me how did you come to know that whatever you were telling? And if the person has gathered that knowledge from his own experience, he will take you to that experience. If he has taken it from some book, or he heard it from his own teacher or somebody, then you instantly know that no, it's not worth adopting that belief. So what I have done is I have made 3 categories in my mind. You can imagine like 3 boxes. The first box is, I don't know. You need to be very, very honest, to put your experiences there. And the second is, I know this for sure, that this is true. And the third is, I know this is false, this is rubbish. So these 3 boxes, keep them, well, maintain them, keep them new and shiny, and keep putting your experiences there.
I've come to believe that there is absolutely nothing that I do know for sure. There is nothing I can put in the middle box. But then we have the awareness, right? And that is...
No, there are certain things which are totally certain. For example, is there an existence?
Well, me and Seth Kostek, we were saying in this video here that exist means to be outside of. which means so like how we say, the world is not inside, like it's all one. So I'm not sure.
No, outside of what?
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. So I guess outside of the brain, or
Okay. Can you say there is something, but let us not use the word exist. Is there something?
There is something. Yes, there is experience.
How certain you are?
I am completely certain that I can see this banana.
Yes. You do not know what it is. You do not know what is the nature of it. And you do not know it is outside or inside something. But you are 100% certain. And that goes into the box of I know. Now, is there a knowing? Is there a consciousness of something? Can there be something without knowing it?
No, like I don't think. No.
Yes, that is the second thing that you are certain of. Now you tell me that which is known, is it constant or is it changing? Don't worry about whether it is something or other thing or it exists or does not exist, whether it's illusion or what. We don't know all these things.
That which is known as constantly changing.
That is another certain thing, isn't it? Another certain thing. Now, whether that which is knowing, the knowing part, is it changing in any way? The known is changing.
The knowing has always been the same.
Yes, it is the fundamental aspect. You cannot say that it exists. It does not exist. So he was right. The Seth was right. That the consciousness does not really exist. It is not out there to be seen. Probably, my terminology is kind of different because I come from the non-dual background. So what we say is the world exists, but the knower does not exist. It is something which knows the existence. You cannot know it. So another thing, you see, and now you can take a look at the experience. You can say, yes, it is changing. But how do I know it is changing? Can you tell me? How do you know that it is changing?
Well, so let's take an example here. So who have a pen? So I would say that the following is a change. And how do I know that it's a change? Okay, so now, well, because I identify this as different from this, like.
Yes. Now let us say the pen was closed, the lid was closed, whatever, cap, whatever you call it.
Yes.
You opened it. How do you know that this change happened?
How do I know? Well,
Don't know?
I mean, I know that it happened. I don't know how. I don't know how I know.
Okay. If somebody asks you, was there cap on the pen? What do you do?
I look at.
Answer yes.
I use my sense, right? Sense perception.
No, that event is already gone. When the cap was on, that event is gone. So you cannot use your sense. How do you know that the cap was on? The pen was closed.
Memory, right?
Memory.
Whoa!
So we know a change has happened because we have seen that, something and it registered in the memory. Now we can see it right now in front of us and compare it with the memory. That is how you know that the lid was on, the cap was on, and it impressed in your memory. And then now you can say that the cap is off now. Yeah, taken off the cap. If there is no memory, can you tell that the change has happened?
No, completely not, I would say.
No.
No.
So whatever is experienced is change, and that change is known only by the memory, through the memory. What is memory? We have a name for it. We call it a mind. Isn't it? It's a subjective experience. Can you say the memory is physical?
No. But
Memory is always recall. Your past experience is played back in your mind. It is a subjective experience. So what we say is there is a memory, but it is non-physical in nature. It is mental in nature.
Mhm.
So there's one more thing that you can put in the box of certainty that all the experience is mind created. And like this, I don't want to drag on this discussion because we have done this many times. And this is how, through your direct experience, you can go on adding to the box of known things, certain things. Now, let us say one day you hear something, you say that this brand of phone has 20 cameras on it. And
Okay.
somebody shows a picture of it. In which box can you put this information?
I have to find out whether it was true by looking at it or.
Obviously. So right now you can put it in the box, I don't know.
Oh, right,
Now
yes.
let us say that your president tells you that we want to attack the neighboring country because they are our enemies. They are robbing us of our money. Now what are you going to do? In which box are you going to put it?
Well, I don't really know, for sure.
You're not sure. It's
Yeah.
not your experience. It's not in your memory also. So the ordinary people, they do not have these boxes. This is called the discrimination, or also called the discernment, the sense of what is true and what is false. Ordinary people do not have this sense. So whatever is told to them, they either believe it or disbelieve it. They have only two boxes. One is called belief and the other is called disbelief. Disbelief is simply a belief, isn't it? We do
Yeah.
not really simply choose to disbelieve it. So, and that is why their lives are full of ignorance, and the ignorance eventually brings suffering, and they are slaves of these cunning people, evil people, who use them as slaves, just for earning money, for controlling resources, or for causing wars, or killing each other. You see, so their lives and consumerism and destruction of environment and all these communal violences and uh, these kind of suffering is a result of not knowing. They do not have these three boxes there, and they are not doing anything to fix it.
Okay.
What the seeker does is, because the seeker has these boxes, will not take an action if the event or the experience falls into the category of I don't know, or I'm not certain of it. These only if it falls in the box of I know it and it is true, only then we take an action. Otherwise, we sit quietly, peacefully.
Okay. What is an example of the false one?
Let us say somebody tells you that you are born
Okay.
You're born on this date. This is your birthday. And you are born as this person with this name, this body. Now, this can be put under the box of is certainly false. Now,
Okay.
I leave it to you as an exercise to to do it.
Okay. I'll write it down.
Another example that we just discussed, fulfillment of desire brings happiness, everlasting happiness and bliss. You can put it, just like a junk box, you see, trash can, trash it into the box of, I know for sure this is not going to happen. This is false. So whenever you see an advertisement on the TV that buy this crap from me, it is gold coated and it is going to cost you one arm and one leg and your newborn child, just give it to them, give them to me, and you will get extreme pleasure, just like this fellow who is like dazed fellow on the TV who is doing this bad acting that I'm happy after buying this product. And you need to be a very big idiot to go and buy it, especially if you don't need it. So that is going to stop a lot of suffering in your life because you won't be affected by others.
What is an emotion? What is that?
Emotion is another activity of the mind. Emotion is another experience, another activity of the mind. It is mental activity. How is it different from thinking? You will notice that thinking comes from the memory.
Yeah.
Memory is of the events that happened in the life. The emotions come from another part of the mind that are built into our mind. We are born with all the emotions. We don't need to learn them. So you can say they are kind of instinctive. And because everybody has emotions, even if they cannot think also, they have emotions. Like all the animals, they have emotions. They can feel pain and pleasure. So you can say that the emotions are a primitive layer in the mind that happened first. The layer above the mind is called intellect, where the thoughts come. The intellect appeared later when the animals got more evolved, when their minds were capable of thinking, the thought appeared. Before that, the animals and people, they are completely governed by this activity called emotion. You will see that the emotion word has E and motion. That means something which is internal, which is a motive force, which causes an action. So let us say you like something, like an object. It gives you a very good emotion. The feeling is very good. So what is the action? You go and grab it. You want that object. Similarly, when you are with your parents, you are a child, you feel safe. The emotion is of love and care. So what do? You want to be in that place. If you do not see your parents for 5 minutes, you start crying. Why? Because the emotion of the fear has appeared. It is motivating that child to do something else, to find security. And so on. If somebody attacks you, there is instantly emotion of anger. You see a beautiful woman, there is an emotion of lust. So you can very directly connect this kind of activity with the need to survive. So emotion is very necessary for survival. You can do without thinking. You can survive fine without thinking, which many people are doing actually. But you cannot survive without emotions. They are crucial for survival. But they are very primitive, so we do not have that much control over emotions. So again, people are driven by their emotions most of the time. Even when there is no need of them, they cling to the emotion. They become a slave to their emotions. Whatever emotion is present right now, their action follows without thinking, without pause. Just like an animal, you see. So you show an animal a spider, the animal runs away because afraid of the spider. You show a spider to a human, the human runs away because afraid of the spider. But when you show a photo of the spider to a human and then they, find it disgusting or they try to run away from that photo, that means something is wrong. That means the intellect is not there right now. The intellect is not functioning.
Yes.
So another example would be that your leader comes and says that this another group is inferior. We are superior. We need to attack them and take their land. That fills you with the emotion of pride, isn't it? That means intellect is not working here, and the boxes are absent in your mind. So this kind of person is a good soldier, but is just an animal because following the emotions that are being stuffed by somebody else for some other purpose, you see. So this is how ordinary people work. They are driven by emotions and beliefs. A seeker is completely opposite. Whenever the emotions appear, let it appear. If it is good, you enjoy it. If it is bad, you just let it come and go. Do not act on it. Never act on your emotions.
Can we use our intellect to guide the river of our emotions?
You can use intellect to control your actions. You cannot use intellect to control your emotions. That is my experience. There is no need to control what kind of emotion appears in your mind because it is beyond control. Whatever is this mechanism doing, the body-mind mechanism, it is going to produce those emotions. What can we do is we can control our actions. We can control whether we are going to act on it or not. There is no need to become an emotional zombie. Like some people cannot even feel an emotion. Like they cannot feel the empathy. They cannot feel the sympathy. They cannot see the pain of the others. So that kind of broken mind we do not want. We want to feel everything, but we don't want to act on it if it is not necessary. If it is necessary, the intellect should be used to find a solution, not the emotion. For example, something bad happens and you are angry now for some reason. Do not and your anger tells you to just hit somebody or to break something, go and cause some kind of harm, to engage in violence. That is what your emotion is going to tell you. But you can let the anger be there because this is a normal reaction to injustice or to something which causes harm to my survival. So you let the anger be there, but you do not act on that anger. You act on the decision taken through the intellect. If it is necessary, you act. Otherwise, you leave it. Don't let the event cling to you. And do not repeat it next time. It does not mean that you ignore it. You do not remember it. You remember it completely. You remember the face of that person, and you remember what triggered that kind of action, and you don't do it again. You avoid the person again using intellect. You must have seen those who are very, very emotional kind, who do not have a pause button on their emotions. They are always very much miserable, or they are very impulsive. Like they get their happiness out of emotions. They are always kind of trying to invoke those emotions. And sometimes they do it by manipulating other people, or by forcing other people to give them the happiness. So a sadist is such a person because you see, when you see your enemy suffering, that produces a good emotion in you. You are happy because your enemy is suffering. This can become an affliction. Now, whenever you want to be happy, you want to see somebody else suffer. This is that mechanism of that affliction, that mental disease of sadism. Similarly, greed. Whenever you fulfill a need of the body produces a very good emotion, isn't it? The emotion of pleasure. Now you want to get this emotion again and again and again. What do? You become greedy. You do it more than it is required. And such people suffer a lot, and they make others also suffer. So that is what I again and again say, that there is no training in our society. The child is not trained to recognize the emotions because they will tell you, you are angry, you are happy. No, these are just mental activities and very primitive activities of the mind. They are, much below intellect. They are animalistic tendencies. So when the child becomes identified with it, then no chance of controlling it, or no chance of even becoming aware that there is an emotion going on in my mind right now. There is no chance of doing it because that child is going to think it is me. So the poison has already taken hold of that child, and when he grows up as a totally untrained person. There's absolutely zero training of his mind. So that is completely absent in our society. Nobody knows what an emotion is. Nobody knows how not to act on it. Nobody knows the meaning of awareness also. When I say awareness, they think, oh, you mean the awareness of the disease or awareness of pollution? Or what?
Wow.
So people do not know what awareness is. When I say consciousness, people think, oh, you mean like I'm awake now, I'm conscious now? And when I fall asleep, I become unconscious now. At that time, do you mean that? So there is complete ignorance in our society. And that is why there is a urgent need to get away from the society. A seeker will do this first, you see. Even while living in the society, you shield yourself from the negativity, ignorance, and the poisonous world. It is not bad, but it is not according to what you want. You want to progress. So you do not go there where there is a chance of regressing. You avoid that.
So I'm on Instagram, I'm flicking through or whatever. There's loads of people. How can I spot people to unfollow? How can I spot people to know that they're ignorant? How can I spot the ignorance? Is it just unhappiness, or I must first become knowledgeable?
First of all, you should not be there. Why do you need Instagram?
Well, really, I'm using my intellect to know that it will sort of get this going, or build it. So it's like a tool, really.
Okay, so I'm also on Twitter and I'm also on YouTube and some other places, but I do not go there to judge people. I go there to simply post whatever I feel is right.
Yeah, so no scrolling.
End of story.
Yeah.
You don't need to judge who is who. The thing is, you regard everybody as equal. You regard everybody as ignorant. And if you see somebody who says something which is true, you simply use one of your boxes, you see. put that thing. Ultimately, it does not become true because somebody said it. It becomes true because you know it. It is your experience. If somebody is saying the same thing, that means, well, he is also progressing, but you don't need to do much about that person. Why am I on these social platforms? Is that there is a pleasure in answering the questions. So usually I don't open my mouth. I keep posting whatever I'm creating. And as soon as somebody comes and asks me, well, you said this, you said that, can you tell me why did you say that and all? And then I open my mouth. Otherwise, I have no interest in people. So what happens is, if you do like this, you will end up educating a lot of people. You will end up training a lot of people. That is that is probably your own mission, I think. So do not unfollow anybody, and also do not follow anybody. If you follow somebody, that is just it does not mean that you follow whatever they think. It is just iconic following. That okay, we are friends on Facebook or whatever. But that does not mean that you buy whatever that person is selling there. If it is a thought, we'll say, no, I don't experience these things. Do not buy those things which they are posting. Yes, you follow them, you unfollow them, whatever you do there, you do it. As soon as somebody wants to interact with you, you try to take them to the same experience that you are having. That is what I do. Sometimes I say that I'm fishing for the right seeker. Actually, people don't like this kind of language, but we don't mind this language here in this place, at least. That I'm fishing for the right seeker. I'm fishing for somebody who is just ripe enough, just ready to fall. What do? I simply shake a little bit, and then the fruit, because it is ripe, it falls.
I want to shake the whole of humanity and
yes,
then employ the ripe mangoes.
Ultimately, this will happen. You will end up fishing. You will end up catching a lot of fish. So even if somebody listens to these things, I regard it as a catch, because a completely corrupt mind is not going to last for more than 30 seconds in such kind of videos or such kind of content. They cannot tolerate this thing. It's completely beyond them. They will go and watch some kind of news or some kind of funny stuff there. They are, deep in the ocean of ignorance. You catch only those fish who are coming to you. So eventually, you will end up catching a lot. I cannot say about the whole world, but even if you do it for like 1%, it will cause a change, because they are going to do the same thing to the others. You see, it will be an avalanche. It will be a snowball effect. So that is why I say that I keep my target as one. Like whenever I produce a video or a podcast episode, my target is only one person who can understand what I'm saying. And hopefully that one person will tell somebody else, and that somebody else will tell somebody else. It is like, you must have heard about the 6 degree of separation, you see.
No, I have not. What is that?
It is a kind of theory, is a saying that we are separated with a random person only by 6 more people between us. I don't know how true it is, but it is a symbolic thing to say that eventually it gets out in the world, whatever you say. Even if there is no huge crowd here, eventually, given sufficient time, whatever you have said will be out there in the world. It makes an impact.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you very much for your continued appearances on this channel. Yes. Blessing.
It is my pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, man.